In my 15 minutes presentation, and I will be talking briefly about how Oslo framework and how this structure, 25 years old structure, actually entrenched the Israeli occupation, and how that structure also criminalized Palestinian resistance against that occupation. And as if these two are not enough, how these two elements of the equation were done by the national authority of the Palestinian people that was created as part of Oslo. So we're not only talking here about the occupation and the apartheid structures and the settler colonialism rule, but also we're talking here about a national authority that was subcontracted to repress the Palestinian people living there. And here where Oslo clearly did harm and more destructive consequences on the Palestinian people by creating not only an illegitimate Palestinian authority that does not only represent them, but also that makes the rights and self-determinations and journey for those goals further away. Of course, while I'm focusing in and zooming in on the Palestinian Authority and the how Oslo framework created this body, we should also never let Israel and its policies off the hook. That's the big picture here, there. But I will focus more on these elements. So basically, I will be presenting three things. I will be presenting the Oslo recipe as I see it from a security framework. Secondly, I will be presenting on Oslo triangle. And thirdly, I will look at the Oslo security framework. So let me start by showing this. I just left London Tube as I just arrived, and this was the breaking news on the Reuters buildings. Trump wants two-state solution for Middle East. I said, okay. Trump open to one-state solution to Israel-Palestine. So that sounds telling. So that was how I was welcomed this trip. So I think that quite tell us a number of stories, but one of them is that when we have this kind of dishonest broker for peace, keeps putting obstacles, things in the wheels not to move on, which means, in other words, they are masters of sustaining the status quo that is destructive for the Palestinian people and their struggle, and is good news for the Israelis and other mediators and the Americans in particular here. So here we're talking about different kind of administrations that they keep bringing in and in and in, different kind of obstacles, different kinds of stuff from left and right not to move away from the status quo. And when I say status quo, it's always need to be seen as destructive for the Palestinian people. So I'm bringing this because this is one ingredient of this Oslo recipe, if you want, like sustainability of this long-term arrangement. It's an arrangement for me, the Oslo framework, but it's long-term one that is there to stay as long as possible unless things are really shaken so badly. So that's one ingredient of this Oslo recipe. To keep the contemporary moment going on, these are four additional ingredients of that recipe. One of them relates to Palestinian Authority security forces arresting 100 political opposition members within less than 24 hours. That is Oslo in action. Anyone say no to Oslo, anyone try to resist, nowhere were to be found. On the other side, you see the Supreme Constitutional Court, another product of the Oslo framework, coming up with a new regulation to say the police force of the Palestinian Authority is actually a military body, and therefore people can be, like citizens, can go and be in the military courts. On the other hand, you see a president of the Palestinian Authority addressing the UN and basically begging for more and more negotiations. And here you see a prime minister meeting with the ad hoc liaison committee and continue begging for more funds. These are recipes of Oslo. What I mean by that is that the recipe of Oslo can be seen as it is a security arrangement to protect the occupier. It is an arrangement that is sustaining the status quo. It is an arrangement for a continuous and endless negotiation. It is an arrangement to entrench the status of dependency, keep the things as they are and totally dependence on others and their resources. Also, it's a structure to keep this dysfunctional, inflated bureaucracy going on. It is an arrangement to keep structural authoritarianism in place as the Palestinian Authority security forces. It's a structure to criminalize resistance against the occupation that should end as soon as possible. It is an arrangement that was so strictly followed by the occupied, but showed no kind of commitments whatsoever from the occupier. But maybe more fundamentally and more importantly, this accord is an arrangement that really distorted the very meaning of peace. What peace means? Peace became to mean very dirty thing, which is very beautiful word, but everyone kept referring to Oslo as Oslo Peace Accords. We may need to make it very clear that Oslo is anything but peace accord. So that's kind of Oslo recipe, getting it from where we are today, just to show that things are happening there, people are still living with the Oslo consequences, with the Oslo structures, with the Oslo consequences on the everyday life at everyday level. And if we continue in that kind of thinking and moving from a recipe to another kind of triangle, this is how I see Oslo, or what Oslo did in a way. If we think about this Oslo triangle, most likely we can think of a society, of an economy, of politics. But what Oslo did, because Oslo is par excellence, is a security arrangement to secure the occupier once again. So there was this notion of securitization of everything. Everything we looked at in that part of the world became very securitized. Everything is defined through security lens, and it happens to be in the benefit of the occupier and the most powerful party, of course. So if we think of the society level, because in a way society comes before politics, so what Oslo did with that, it really changed the dynamic in the social contract between the people and the leadership. It really changed and redefined the different kind of principles that ruled the Palestinian people. It distorted the Palestinian civil society. It fragmented people. These are not good news when we look at the people, the society aspect. If we look at the economy aspect, as I stated before, it entrenched status of dependency, aid reliancy, denial of development. If we look at the politics, it entrenched a continuous personalized style of governance at the Palestinian side, structural corruption, anti-democracy, and arguably anti-people. So, if that's not enough, Oslo came with also another security framework that I think this Carlos Latouf one can really summarize it neatly. This is what the Oslo security framework. You have the Israeli side subcontracting repression to the Palestinian Authority to repress people, adding another level. So that's one way to summarize this Oslo security framework. Another way to illustrate this security framework of Oslo is this rather painful picture. If you take one moment to look at this is a Palestinian Authority police car. There at the corner there, 2 Israeli soldiers arresting and beating a Palestinian one. These guys are going away as there's nothing happening in front of them. For me, this is quite very powerful image to really illustrate this kind of Oslo security framework that we've seen. Completely indifferent authority while persisting people under occupation and brutality. But Oslo security framework did even more than these two. It created this kind of structure where you see around 80,000 security personnel working in the Palestinian Authority security forces, which means one security person for 48 people, which is very high in all standards that we know, even if we compare it with other countries around the world. if you look how many brigadier generals the Palestinian Authority has like more, and Hamas also in Gaza, that's more than 312 people. In the US, do you know how many brigadier generals they have in that big army? Close to 400. So it created all these structures where it's full of security, it's full of security bodies, but the security of the Palestinian people keep diminishing, keep eroding and eroding after the Arab. So that's in a way to illustrate the security framework. But the security framework, and I hope I do have 2 minutes, or the security framework of Oslo cannot be discussed without mentioning two elements. One is the security coordination, and the other one is the criminalization of resistance. Look at these quick codes. The first one, it's easy to tell who said that. That was Trump. He's talking, I applaud the Palestinian Authority continued security coordination with Israel. They get unbelievably well. They work together beautifully. But what you see beyond that is actually from a Palestinian PLO official who said security coordination is part and parcel of our liberation strategy. We do it with excellence because we believe in it. So you see like here the mismatch between what the Palestinians, Americans, Israeli believe in and what the Palestinian people see very foreign to them, where more than 80% think that there is no value in this security coordination. And then we need to think about coordination here as a domination or what on. But finally, let's bring the criminalization of resistance to the table. Abbas the other day mentioned that the PLO is committed to achieving peace and combating terrorism. We will continue to combat violence and terrorism. This language is very dangerous, very destructive for a national liberation project when you equate resistance with terrorism and with violence. On the other hand, the other two quotes are coming from my field work where I've been in touch with and interviewing people in refugee camps across the West Bank in particular. And these are quite telling. Two quotes. One said, how can a thief be held to same jail cell as a muqawim, as a freedom fighter? Since 2007, public gatherings are only allowed on 3 occasions: wedding, funerals, or prison gatherings. I'm bringing this just to tell you what kind of changes the Palestinian society went through that start thinking along these lines. This is what Oslo have created. This is what, in particular, or in conclusion, what Oslo did. In my opinion, Oslo, after all these years, professionalized authoritarianism. Authoritarianism became a profession where you see, like, with the security-first approach paradigm, everything is to ensure stability, everything is to ensure the security of the occupier, but that only lead to only violations of Palestinian rights. Donors keep putting all the money, Palestinian Authority keeps being subcontracted, Israel continues its occupation, then the final outcome, continuous professionalization. I don't have time to go, how do we flip that Oslo triangle, but we can talk a little bit more how to move beyond these problems that I just described. But my point was, or is, to tell you that there is nothing good in Oslo and its framework for the Palestinian people. If we need to change that, then we need to engage in a different kind of discussion to build a new leadership, to reinvent Palestinian and political system, and even to redefine peace. I will stop here and continue in the Q&A. Thank you.